Hello everyone, back tuning in to our latest historic video at GazWeatherVids.com. Hope you're having a lovely Easter Monday and a fantastic bank holiday weekend wherever you are. So today's historic video is going to be going a very long way back. We're going back to the really cold March, I think the coldest on record, of 1883. We're also going to be having a look at the coldest December on record. It still just about is the coldest December on record. December 2010 nearly beat it, but September 1890, in terms of the central England region anyway, still holds that record by just 1.1 of a degree. And we'll also have a look at the rest of the winter of 1890, 1891, including another really cold March in 1891. So a lot to be getting on with, a lot to be cramming in. Hope you find the video interesting on this bank holiday Monday. Because we're going such a very long time away, it makes it harder for me because there's not as much information, if you like, for me to present in the video. I've got the charts from westcentre.de. I've got some information, a few pictures as well. Also got a little bit of reanalysis from our good friend James Acrill. But it is a more trickier for me to do this one. It's probably the hardest historic video I've ever done. So we'll see how I get on with it. Potentially, because the historic archive at westcentre.de goes back to the 1st of January 1871, potentially we could do a lot more from the 1800s, but I've always been a bit dubious about it because of the lack of information. I'd love to do 1878, 1879. If you don't know anything about that, go to Trevor Harley's website or westcentre.de where you can see the charts and you'll see what I'm talking about. It was a very cold period from 1878 through to 1879. If I can get it together, it will potentially be my magnus opus, I think, but I've always been a bit wary about it because, again, there just isn't a huge amount of information out there for these winters that are in the 1800s. So we'll see how I get on with this one. If you enjoy it, then potentially we will do more from the 1800s. But before I go on with all of that, just to say about the ads. So there's links to articles on all of the pages. Have a browse through widgets and click through the links if there's any articles that you're interested in. Thanks very much for doing that. There's video ads on most of the pages. So you open up the content option, they'll close back up again. It does help to pay for GazWeatherVids.com. The historic videos I've done over 20 of them. I haven't counted them up recently, but I know it's over 20. It's probably getting on for 30. The historic videos would not be possible without two websites. There's westcentre.de, I've already mentioned westcentre.de, where they've got the historic archive of charts going back to January 1st, 1871. There's also Trevor Harley's personal web website, where much of the information that you hear in these historic videos comes from Trevor Harley's website. So you can find a link to both of the websites on the links page. Do please go to those websites and check those websites out, because there's no way I could do these videos without them. The charts and the information are presented by me. I think it all comes together quite well. Hopefully, if I'm doing my job right, it all comes together okay. But if you took any of those elements out, I'm less important, really. But if you took westcentre.de or Trevor Harley out of the equation, I don't think the historic videos will work. So a big thank you to westcentre.de and Trevor Harley for all of their help doing these historic videos. It's going to be a long video, this, so if you can't watch it all in one sitting, don't worry, you'll be able to come back to the website, watch it whenever you want. It's going to be kept in the historic section of GazWeatherVids.com. I've got all of the historic videos that I've ever done here on the website. Nothing has been removed or deleted except one, which was from the summer of 1954, but I wasn't at all happy with. I did get rid of that because I didn't think I was very good on it. But other than that one, none of the historic videos have been removed. They are all on the website, going back to the very first one that I did. And I only had it at GazWeatherVids.com a few weeks, I think, when I did the very first. In fact, I may not even have had the website. I may just have been exclusively on YouTube. That's how far back the first one goes, which is the ice storm of January 1940. I think goes right way back to the start of 2012. I'm not very good on those early ones. I'm learning my craft a little bit. But nevertheless, they're still there. So if you ever want to watch this video again, or you can't watch it all in one go, you want to watch any of the other historic videos, all you have to do is click the button on top of the page that says historic, and you'll be able to have a look at the historic list of videos going right back to the very first one that I did back when I was just starting out in 2012. You can see just how young this face looked. Right, I've gone on for long enough. Let's get on with the video. I'm going to start off with winter of 1882, 1883, just to put things in context. So actually, it was quite a mild winter that we had in 1882, 1883. December 1882 comes out with Central England temperature of 4.1. January comes out with Central England temperature of 4.7. And then February 1883 was very mild with a central England temperature of 5.9. And this chart from the 15th of February 1883 is really indicative of the winter. Westerly, southwesterlies coming in with deep area of low pressure in the Atlantic, so wet, windy, but mild conditions. That takes us through to the 20th, still in an Atlantic-driven pattern. And we go through to the 24th of February with high pressure building up from the south, and this all looks very, very mild, doesn't it? If you follow the isobars map, the area's originated from somewhere in the central part of the Atlantic, and this big ridge is pushing up from the Azores and from France, so no doubt pretty mild and balmy conditions going on here. That's how we end the winter of 1882, 1883. On a mild, settled, anticyclonic note with high pressure sitting just to the southwest. Now, what we have to keep in mind about this is that we're talking about the 1800s, so we're talking about way before the Clean Air Act, and of course what we have going on at this point is the Industrial Revolution, so there's lots and lots of coal and soot being shoved off into the atmosphere. So whenever you've got a pattern like this that technically is mild, with high pressure in a mild position and the air coming around at high pressure from the southwest, we do have to take into account that there's probably quite a lot of fog and maybe even smog going on with this, and of course that would reduce the temperatures a lot. So it's one of the reasons, not the only reason by any means, the main reason why this is such a colder period in the Victorian era is that we're close to the Little Ice Age, so it's a cold period anyway. But one of the other reasons why it's colder back in this era is that even when we have winter charts that now would be mild or even very mild, back then it was probably quite cold due to just the filthiness of the air blocking out the sun, and of course if you take out the sun you're going to cool things very quickly, so there's probably fog and smog and quite a cold pattern going on, quite cold weather going on, even though the pattern is generally fairly mild. So we start March 1883 with still in a fairly mild position, high pressure just to the southwest of us and mild air revolving around the top of that high pressure. March 1883 has a central England temperature of just 1.9 Celsius. It's the coldest on record. To put in context, the really cold March that we've had a couple of years ago in 2013, that came out central temperature of around, I think it's around 3.2, something like that. So this is a good degree and a half colder than that really cold March that we had in 2013. So you can just imagine what a shocking month this is. But as I say, we start on generally a fairly mildish note, although keep in mind there's probably still fog going on at this point. There's definitely fog going on at this point. We're going through to the 2nd of March 1883. This high pressure is ridging through the country right over the top, so the winds are very light away from north of Scotland and the Channel, so almost certainly there would be fog and maybe even smog at this point. We go through to the 3rd of March. That high pressure is drifting towards central parts of Europe, just beginning to bring in a little bit of a colder easterly wind to the south. But this still isn't generally a cold pattern, although with any fog or smog it could be quite cold at this point. Now things start getting interesting from now onwards. So we're at the 4th of March 1883 and the high pressure is centred across central parts of Europe. Then we go through to the 5th, and the high pressure is actually centred right over top of the UK. We go through to the 6th, and look at this, the high pressure has gone up to Iceland and Greenland. This is retrogression. This is where we take high pressure from east to west against the zonal flow. Remember, in the UK, the typical flow is to go like that. It's to go from west to east. But when we get retrogression, we are taking the ridge. It's normally a ridge, it can be a trough occasionally, but normally it's a ridge, and we're retrogressing it against the zonal flow, moving from east to west, as opposed to the zonal flow, which is the normal flow, west to east. And all of the coldest winters have retrogression, or the coldest months, or the coldest winters, they tend to have that one thing in common, that the high pressure will go against the normal flow and go from east to west. It just tells you that the atmosphere is acting abnormally when we take the high pressure from east to west like this. So we go through to the 6th of March, and we're pulling down this northerly wind as this high pressure hooks up towards Greenland and Iceland, and no doubt there's a cold front coming down with this, and much colder air with snow showers will be following along behind. So time goes through to 7th of March 1883, we are firmly in a cold pattern now. The high pressure is centred west of us. The air coming around this area of high pressure coming from the north and the northeast. This will be delivering snow showers into the north and the east of the country. The 9th of March, really cold northeasterly wind. Look at this, the isobars are originating from Scandinavia, possibly even from western Russia. So particularly for England and Wales, we will be bringing in snow showers at this point. This is how the upper air temperatures change. So we start off, as I say, technically mild with the upper air temperatures on the 5th of March. Keep in mind it's anticyclonic though, so with such filthy air as we have in this Victorian era, we could have much colder surface temperatures than this would suggest. But technically it is mild in terms of the upper air. However, 24 hours later, and it's all changed. Cold areas flooding southwards, probably behind a cold front, with snow showers moving into the north. By the 7th of March, we are firmly in a cold pattern. Look at that, -10 isotherm right way through the country. Definitely cold enough for snow, no doubts about that. And it just gets colder then as we go through into the second week of March. This is the upper air temperature chart for the 9th of March. And the -10 isotherm, and this is for March, so it's into the spring. The -10 isotherm has cleared the whole of the country. Many parts of the country actually getting quite close towards -12, -13, 850 HPA through that period of the 8th, 9th into the 10th of March. This is how the chart looks for the 10th of March. We've got high pressure through the country, so I think we're talking about very cold temperatures, barely getting above freezing by day. By night it would be really cold with hard overnight frost, probably a fair amount of dry weather, although there's a trough dropping into the northwest. It could be delivering some snow there, and that pushes south and east as we go through into the 12th and just opens the door to another renewed assault of northerly and northeasterly winds, which would again bring snow showers back into the north and the east of the country. Things stay cold through the 13th into the 14th of March. Real blocking feature there between Iceland and Scandinavia. There's an area of high pressure. The flow is generally coming from the east. Getting quite a bit of dry weather, but I think there will still be snow showers going on through this middle part of March. This is quite interesting. On the 15th of March 1883, a little area of low pressure developing to the south. That could be bringing some longer spells of snow in across southern parts of the country. And then pressure just generally weakens then as we go through into the second half month. This is 16th of March. So we've got low pressure running through the south, could be bringing snow to southern parts of the country. Low pressure developing around the Norwegian Sea. That could be bringing persistent snow into the north and east as well. It's freezing cold. The nights would be really cold, going down to minus double digits probably by day. Again, we're barely getting above freezing, and then that low pressure just sits over the country really as we go through to 17th of March. So quite interesting, the low pressure starts around the Norwegian Sea on the 16th, and by the 17th it's sitting off the coast of eastern England. I think there'll be a lot of snow being driven in with this from the north and the east. The upper air temperatures, because we're in an area of low pressure and it's March, upper air temperatures aren't that spectacular, but we've had couple of weeks of really cold weather up to this point. The upper air temperatures are still cold enough to be delivering snow, so quite a lot of snow there on the 16th, 17th into the 18th of March. That low pressure is sitting over top of the country. Again, look how blocked things are with the high pressure to the north and the northeast. A real blocking feature there. The low pressure underneath it. The jet stream, very abnormal. It's doing something like that. A very abnormal flow with the jet stream, and well to the south of us, and we're allowing that cold air to feed into the low pressure via the blocking. And things just stay cold and winters go through the 19th on into 20th. Again, the idea is that high pressure is generally centred to the north, low pressure to the south. The winds are screaming in from the east, so there'd be more snow, particularly for the south actually. Less so for the north, because closer to the ridge, but to the south, got this low pressure, so could be a lot of snow again across southern parts of the country. Week 22nd stays really cold and blocked. Look where the air is originating from with these isobars. We can actually follow them back, and the air is coming from somewhere across central parts of Europe, just here. So a long way east, with the air being driven in on those easty winds. Again, loads and loads of blocking up to the north and the east and the west of the country, with the trough to the south and to the east. A classic chart with snow driving in. We're going up towards Easter now. Good Friday this year in 1883 was on March 23rd, and we have minus 14.2 Celsius as the minimum temperature at Braemar. That's the lowest recorded temperature over Easter. I don't think that's been beaten. I don't think we did beat that in 2013 either. So again, severely cold weather as we're going through into the Easter period. That's Good Friday. Look how cold the upper air temperatures are to the east. Of course, it's not that cold for us, but the source of the air is from that far east, where we've got this deep cold pool. So you can imagine the surface temperatures, freezing cold air being driven in from the east. We go through to Easter Sunday. This is Easter Day of 1883, the 26th of March. And the low pressure, again, very much in situ around the country within cold air. Following the ice bars back, we're going to get another renewed push of air, bitterly cold air from the north and the east, and this low pressure would be providing the energy and the precipitation for, no doubt, quite a lot of snow. And it just goes on really up to the end of the month. We keep the winds in from the north, very northerly, easterly month, repeatedly going from north to east, back to north again, as all the classic cold winter months and seasons do so. And this is how we end then March 1883, trying to turn it a bit milder. Actually, at the very end of the month, we tried to push some milder air in. I think the air across France is still pretty cold even at this point. So there's probably snow coming in from the west, but eventually the Atlantic does begin to break through. There's a bit of a stall going on here, but eventually the Atlantic does begin to break through. As we get through into April 1883, it finally starts to thaw out and turn milder. But my word, what a cold month that one was. This is a reanalysis from our good friend James Ackrell for March 1883, and well, it's a classic winter month. Look at that, all the blocking is to the north, and then we've got this trough centred down to the south of the country, and that's the reason the winds are always, throughout the month really, coming either from the east or the north. And again, as I say, the jet stream is doing something like that. Notice it's a cold month for Eastern America as well. Interestingly, the jet stream doing something like that through March 1883. Now, the next month I want to have a look at is 1890. So we're going to go and have a look at December 1890. This is the coldest December on record. December 2010 came very, very close. It's just 0.1 of a degree off the record, off beating this month, December 1890. But it didn't quite do it. I think it might have done it for the UK-wide temperature, but the Central England region didn't quite beat 1890. It comes out with a Central England temperature, December 1890, of minus 0.8 Celsius. And I think December 2010 was minus 0.7 Celsius. So that's how close it was to beating this month. Again, you have to factor in that back in 1890, it's before the Clean Air Act, we're pumping coal and soot into the atmosphere, so there's a lot of smog going on. So you can factor that in. it may be that December 2010 was a colder month than 1890, or I mean, that if we had the pattern of December 2010 in 1890 would have been even colder than we had either in 2010 or in 1890. It's interesting to ponder. Anyway, we start off on the 1st of December 1890, bringing in this very mild southwesterly flow across the country. We go through the 2nd and into the 3rd, and very quickly things are changing, as you expect for such a cold month. So we've lost that southwesterly, started to set up a blocking feature to the north around Greenland and Iceland. And then, again, just as we were looking at with 1883, really, that blocking feature gets going to the north of Scotland, starts to move towards Scandinavia. That opens the door to these easterly and northeasterly winds. And December 1890 was a very, very easterly month. In 1883, that March had lots of northerlies and a few easterlies as well. This is almost exclusively easterly through December 1890. So here we are on the 8th of December with high pressure firmly embedded and entrenched across Scandinavia, bringing in this bitterly cold east to southeast wind. I'm not sure there's a huge amount of snow with this. It would have been some snow, but generally it's a very anticyclonic month, so I assume it really is quite a dull month. And the main thing is that, of course, with these easterly winds, we're blocking off the Atlantic, so we're not bringing the rain-bearing systems through. That means we're probably not getting snow events. There may be snow coming into the east, of course, on snow shower, but probably not getting big snow events. But what we are doing is just bring cold air consistently in off the continent, and lots of cloud as well. No sunshine was recorded in London whatsoever through this month. And I say, very foggy month as well, with all of that soot and filth that's being shoved into the atmosphere. Back during the Industrial Revolution, you can imagine that the air quality would have been really quite horrendous around many of these cities. So if you factor that in, I do think December 2010 is probably a more impressive month, actually, than this month was. So we go through to the 12th of December, and again, high pressures in across Scandinavia, bringing in these easterly winds, so blocking off the Atlantic, really cold and dry. 14th of December 1890 shows the low pressure trying to have a little bit of a go coming in from the Atlantic, but it doesn't really come to anything. It probably produces snow to the south and the west of the country, but really it's still this ridge across Scandinavia still bringing in these easterly winds. It just goes on then through into the second half of the month. This is the 18th of December 1890. The high pressure still in there across Scandinavia. We're still bringing in that easterly wind. Really quite a deep cold pool getting going across Central Europe at this point as well in terms of the upper air. That could be bringing a greater risk of snow into the eastern part of the country. Now on the 19th, we tried to break this high pressure down. So we bring a weather system in off the Atlantic. This is probably a classic snow event. This is the first one of this really cold month. So heavy snow moving in off the Atlantic. Does it change the pattern? There's the upper air temperatures on the 19th of December as that system's coming in off the Atlantic, easily cold enough for snow. Does it break down that ridge? Well, look what happens. The low pressure just stalls and starts to slip to the south. So the cold air wins the battle after a big dump of snow. The low pressure just slinks away to the south and allows the ridge to build back in across the country. We go up towards Christmas. This is December the 23rd. This is Christmas Eve. And we're still within this block pattern. And although the Azores High is trying to get in on the act and trying to bring milder air back from the Atlantic, no, it's still this blocking feature across Scandinavia that is actually the driver of the weather. And as we go through to Christmas Day, the high pressure just takes over the pattern again, turns the winds into the east, and we keep it cold then through to the end of the year. So this is the 27th of December, day after Boxing Day, back where we started in an easterly wind, no doubt bringing more snow showers into the east. Freezing, frosty and cold weather going up towards the new year. Low pressure's trying to push up from the southwest, trying to bring the air back into the Atlantic, but it's still a blocking feature to the north and east that's dominating on New Year's Eve. There's the upper air temperatures with the confirmation of how cold it is for New Year's Eve 1890 with the -10 isotherm right over the top of the country. This is a reanalysis from James for December 1890. So it's a very easterly month, deep trough to the south of the country, and then we've got this ridge in over Scandinavia, and that means that the flow is going like that. As I say, it really is a very, very easterly month that we have in December 1890. 1891, January 1891, starts off like this. Still cold, winds going more southeasterly. This month has a central temperature of 1.3, so it is cold, not as cold, interestingly, as not as cold as December, and actually February gets even milder. I'll show you what happens. We run through the first half of January 1891. It stays quite cold with blocking features up to the northeast, still bringing down these cold easterly northerly winds. High pressure sticks around the country through the first week, so it's very dry, but it is cold. We go through into the middle part of January 1891, still with that high pressure centre over top of the country. And again, retrogression being hinted at here, trying to take the high pressure back up towards Greenland ice and trying to bring winds back into the north once again. And generally, it's pretty cold up towards the 18th. But then we go through to the 20th, and quite a significant change takes place via this area of low pressure moving in from the north and the west. Initially, this brings a push of cold air from the north. There would have been more snow with that, but it's turning the air back into the Atlantic. So as we go through to the latter stages of January 1891, it does turn milder. We end January 1891 bringing in these much milder southwesterly flows. And then we get a long run of much milder weather as we go through into February. So February 1891 comes out with a central temperature of 3.9. So we're not talking about an exceptionally mild month, but the patterns are mild. And again, I think the reason that central temperature isn't that excited, probably because, again, under the ridging, there was a lot of ridging in February 1891. We probably have quite a lot of fog and smog. So here we go to the 4th of February 1891, and that high pressure is generally centred to the south and the west of the country. We go through the first week, high pressure dominates, high pressure continues to dominate through the 12th, tries to bring a bit of a colder push down from the north, but doesn't really come to much. High pressure back in over the country. This was an exceptionally dry month. There was a lot of fog during the first bit of the month in particular, so that explains why, despite the patterns being generally very mild, central temperature isn't overly exciting. But many stations didn't record any measurable rain at all through the course of this month, and we'd have to wait until February 1998 to find a February that was as dry or drier. So it's just a high pressure fest really throughout the month, and eventually it does get very, very, very mild as we go through towards the end of February 1891. We pull up these southerly winds and temperatures rise to 18, 19 Celsius widely through the 27th, 28th. Really spring-like weather, almost like May, can you believe, as opposed to being winter. So I've had this historically cold December, the coldest on record, and then we've got this extremely mild pattern going through into the end of February, where it's more like May than like February. Is that the end of winter, though? Yeah, hadn't better believe it, because we go through to March 1891, and it's going to get really cold once again. So after that warm May-like weather at the end of February, March 1891 comes out with a central temperature of 3.8. It's colder than the February that precedes it. Let's see what happens. So we bring this westerly through, generally quite a mild start to March 1891. And the first few days, not overly cold. The high pressure sitting down to the southwest country. Cold air is plunging into Scandinavia. You notice a deep trough is coming through there. But for us, generally, it's quite a mild and dryish pattern that we're getting through the opening days of March 1891. However, we get through towards the 5th on into the 6th. Notice what's happening. Pressure starting to rise around Greenland. The air's beginning to go into the north and the northwest. So on the 7th, a cold spell begins. We start to push down really cold air from the north as the blocking feature sets itself up over Scandinavia. Follow the isobars back, over Greenland I should say, follow the isobars back. The air is originating to the north of Scandinavia. So bitterly cold air plunging southwards on the 7th of March 1891. This is very, very similar to how the freezing cold December of 1981 started off, actually, with high pressure gradually going out to the Atlantic and then moving up towards Greenland. So we go through into the 8th of March 1891, really classic blocking feature there across Greenland, low pressure to the south of it, so battles taking place, and on the northern edge of this low pressure we begin to see snow starting to develop, and we go through to a historically snowy pattern from the 9th to the 13th of March 1891. We see a historic blizzard taking place. Trevor Hardy says this: one of the most severe snowstorms of the century, talking about the 19th century, the 1800s, one of the most severe snowstorms of the century on the 9th to the 13th of March 1891. Perhaps one of the most severe snowstorms ever. So what you're going to witness here could be one of the most severe snowstorms that has ever occurred in the United Kingdom. That includes going right way back into the Little Ice Age. Unfortunately, we saw 220 people dying in this snowstorm. Many ships were lost at sea, and even sheep were blown off the cliffs of Devon, and they died in their thousands and were lost in the sea as well. There were snow drifts up to 20 feet deep across some parts of southern and southwestern England because of the heavy snow combining with a northeasterly gale. So just run through the charts and you see why it's so severely cold, because we've got this northeasterly wind coming down like this, and then we've got low pressure trying to bring milder air up from the south. In between there's weather systems waving and stretching out into the Atlantic, and in the end it's going to form a very severe blizzard. Here's the upper air temperatures showing the contrast: -10 ice firm across the north, up to 5 Celsius across France down to the 850 temperatures. A big temperature contrast fueling that precipitation. So the 10th of March, look at this, a real blizzard going on. Low pressures off the south coast of England, bringing in this gale force east to northeasterly wind. Loads of heavy snow, particularly affecting England and Wales, and I think particularly it's the southwest and also the southeast of the country that was badly affected here. There's a weather front in this sort of zone, again producing loads and loads of heavy snow. Less severe in the north, excuse me, it's less severe in the north, but particularly for England and Wales, and in the south it is very, very severe. It goes on into the 11th with this blizzard raging across England and Wales in particular. Again, the upper air temperatures show it's easily cold enough for snow, particularly in the west of the country. And through to the 12th and on into the 13th of March 1891, it just continues really this area of low pressure down to the southwest of the country, providing the energy for repeated bouts of snow across the south of the country. I think it's just the sheer persistence of this that makes it quite extraordinary. It just goes on over so many days. So again, go back to the 9th when it all starts kicking off with low pressure coming up from the south, and then we move through to the 10th and it still goes on. We move through to the 11th and it still goes on with that area of low pressure to the south. We move through to the 12th, it's still going on. First low pressure clearing away to the east, but the next low pressure down to the southwest. We go through to the 13th and it's still going on, that low pressure just to the south of the country, and the sheer persistence of this snow, falling on snow, falling on snow, falling on snow over so many days, and being blown around by that easterly to northeasterly gale is what makes it so severe. As I say, Trevor Hardy says these charts could be amongst some of the most severe weather in terms of snow ever recorded in the UK. Just think about 20-foot snow drifts across the south of England in the middle of March, in an era where we have no means of really getting rid of it. We haven't got snow ploughs. All we can do is send people out with spades to try and dig themselves out. We haven't got the machinery to shift all of this snow like we have now. So you can imagine how severe it was, and of course people would have died because they didn't have the heating in their homes no doubt people froze to death during this severe period of weather. We go up to the 14th and things start to ease through the middle part of the month. We lose the severity of the weather. We try to bring the air back in off the Atlantic, but that just ends in failure as the low pressure drifts to the south of the country. And we finish up back where we started, basically, with low pressure to the south of the country and bringing the winds back into the east and the northeast again. Notice another blocking feature up to the north of the UK. And it just carries on cold really through up to the 20th of March. Again, the winds are in from the north and the northeast. And things don't really start changing until we get through to the very end of the month when the air starts to become more Atlantic based. Even then, it's not overly mild, but it is a little bit milder then. The winds are starting to turn into west. Although we go through to the end of March 1891, we get another push of cold air down from the north once again, and that's how we end the month of March 1891, very much back in a bitterly cold northerly flow. This is a reanalysis from James, and you can see just how blocked it was to the north of the country, but notice this trough that's centred right through the UK, so it extends through Scandinavia down in towards France and Spain and Portugal. That is a very extreme pattern really, with the flow going like that. So very, very much on the cold side of the jet stream, of course, within this trough, and the blocking is what's feeding the cold air down into the trough of low pressure, and that's responsible for all of the snow. And then would you believe we had another cold March in 1892? I'll just whiz through this. It's such a cold year, and you could go on and on and on with these charts, but this is the next year, March 1892, which is even colder, can you believe, than March 1891. This one has a central temperature of 2.7. Such a interesting period for cold weather. What would we do if we had an era like that now? I shudder to think. But it's just another really cold month. The air consistently coming in from the north with low pressure providing. So this would have been a big snow event on the 10th of March 1892. That low pressure slinks away. Look how blocked it is again to the north and the northeast of the country, and it just stays cold really through into the second half of the month, although less so than it is in the first half of the month. We finish up in March 1892 with high pressure, so it's a bit of a month of two halves really. The first half very blocked, very snowy, severe cold conditions at times, particularly around this point, the 9th, 10th, as his low pressure sinks down within the cold air. But all the months really around this period, or many of them, displayed pretty cold weather. And go through to the end of March 1892, does turn a bit milder, although again keep in mind it's under a ridge of high pressure, so despite the fact the pattern is milder, it's probably generally still cold under foggy conditions. Well, that's it. Hope you found it interesting. Hope I've not rambled on too long. How long have I gone on for with this? I've gone on 37 minutes. This could be the longest one I've ever done, actually. So I better start winding things up now. I'm just going to leave you with a few pictures. We haven't got many really good pictures for this period because, again, it's so long ago. These months happening now. We had loads of pictures to be able to show, but haven't got a great deal of it. I haven't got a couple, so I just wanted to show you this one. This is more of a portrait, really, than a photograph. This is partridge. I had to throw this one. I did a Google search, and I decided I had to throw this one just for fun. Really, this is partridge shooting during March 1883 in a severe cold. I think that's a partridge being killed there, unfortunately, and there's the gunman in the snow, wading through the snow on their shooting trips. Partridges being felled. This one is a train stuck in snow. Again, it's a portrait, train stuck in snow in 1883. I think, again, that's March 1883. This one, I think it's from nextweather.tv. This is December 1890. You can't really make it out all that well. This is an actual picture that was taken from December 1890. I think it's a field or some sort of rural area anyway that's covered by snow. It looks like there's people trying to clear the snow. And then this is the best picture that we've got. This is from March 1891, during that blizzard, during the middle part of March 1891. David found this, who posts at the comment box at Galsworthy. So big thank you to David for finding this one for me. This is in Princetown. This is Princetown, Devon, I think, or Exmoor, somewhere like that, down in the southwest, where we had that disruptive blizzard, perhaps one of the worst blizzards ever recorded in the UK. And I think it took 2 weeks to get that train out of that snowdrift. So a big thank you to David for providing that one for us. Right, that's it for now. Enjoy the rest of your Easter bank holiday Monday. Tomorrow it's all back to normal at Galsworthy's. The regular updates will be back with you. So come back tomorrow to see whether there's any weather like this in the offing. We're getting very late now, so probably the answer will be no, but come back tomorrow and you'll be able to find out. Enjoy the rest of your Easter weekend, what's left of it. Not much more to go now, but enjoy the rest of your Easter Monday, and all that remains is say thanks so much for watching this historic video, and have a great day. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.